So last week when I recorded myself, I was so proud of myself. I came flying home from work. I was like, I got to get this podcast done and posted tomorrow. I got to get this done, right? So I had everything plugged in right. I have no idea what I did wrong, but the recording thing didn't record any of my voice. So it's just the camera picking it up, which then picked up literally everything else. Dogs barking, birds chirping.
I love authentic.
Backup going beep, beep,
I
beep.
love authentic.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, we tried. And I was like, I don't have any time to re-record it, so.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
I decided talking to myself is not a good idea because I didn't know what, I didn't know how to respond to myself. I was just kind of like, well, what should I talk about next? Because it was just me talking and Aaron goes, yeah, you sounded different because you weren't interacting with somebody. You were
different.
just talking and it was more preachy. And I was like, yeah, we're not doing that again. I don't even know where that was.
So it's just a very different thing. And I didn't think that. And in fact, is that the one where you were wearing your beautiful? No, I think you were talking.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
with your
my
beautiful
backpack
shirt.
and teal.
Yes.
Yeah. It's actually a dress.
where
I'll
I'm
have to show
like-
you the whole thing. It's really cute.
Yeah. I'm like, yes. She
Yep.
looks amazing.
Thank you. I really like
Yes.
this. I have this color on again. But
It's
I
a
really
beautiful
like this
color on you.
So
I can see why.
it's it makes me happy.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Let them take me as far as they want to go. And it's time for me to say, they won't break me, I'm braver than I know. I was made for this. Oh, such a time as this. I was made for this.
Right.
So being that it's back to school today,
Yes.
I'm going to tell you what happened today.
Okay.
My daughter started high school. I know. So it was
And
one of those.
This is your last. This is your baby child.
My baby started high school. And it was the weirdest thing because this is the first year that I've ever had one kid to take a back to school picture for.
Oh my goodness, that's right.
And so I was like, oh, that's it. It's just one and then done. And then, and it was literally on her way out to the car. I was like, pause. She
We
goes,
need to get this.
I know the photo. And I was like, we do it every year.
Oh.
But yeah, it was so strange. It was just that last,
oh.
I don't know.
Was it a surreal feeling? The idea of this?
I genuinely had to hold back tears.
I can believe
didn't
that.
know. I didn't think I was going to do that. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like, no, it's cool, whatever. We've been talking about it all
Because
week.
you celebrate your kids at every stage.
Oh.
It's not like anything is bad to you,
Yes.
but there still are events in life where it's markers of time.
It
And
is.
I think you start to realize
Yeah.
how quickly it's gone.
It was almost to me like the beginning of an end chapter. She has now started into the last chapter of her schooling,
Yeah.
and it just, oh man, it hit me in all the feels this morning.
Oh,
I was like, do not
Mama.
cry, do not cry. I was posting to Facebook and I'm going, do not cry. So I wrote that in my Facebook post.
I read that.
I'm trying not to cry, But
I read
yeah,
that. I had feels when I read it because I knew.
yeah.
I
And I'm
remembered.
so happy for her. And truly, because, she went back and forth. Is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? And there have been confirmation after confirmation after confirmation.
I was going to say
that she's in the right place.
everything fell in place for that
Watching
decision.
her, I went to freshman orientation, which again was totally weird. Last week I went to it, and I was not allowed to sit next to her, which I found very accurate and very funny. So I'm standing
the
with her,
school or her?
and she per her, right? So we're just supposed to all gather and sit down, and so we walked in together, and then she kind of took off, and then
Right.
the whole row was filled with her friends, and so I was like, sweet. So I went one row up and I looked at the moms and I was like, let's have our own row. I'm like, we'll do a mom's row and then the kids row. It was so great. And then she's texting me during the thing. So instead of us conversating about all of this, we were doing
Yes.
it through text,
That's
which I found.
So you're texting with your
with Addison behind
Addie
me. Yes.
behind-
Yep. She was literally
I love this.
behind me a row and all the way over. And so, there were times that we
Aw.
needed to actually kind of chat about a couple things. And she just texted and it was
Oh.
hilarious.
How is-
Go ahead.
How is she feeling on her first day of her new chapter?
Oh, well, she told me I saw her for about 3.4 seconds when I got home in between work and here, right?
Yes.
She said she was very bored today, but she
Okay.
had a half day. She had
Got it.
15 minutes in each class. And so
That's like speed dating.
right. So it's pretty much like, hi, welcome to the school. Welcome to your teacher. Welcome to your
Okay.
classes. You know, kind of getting them acclimated
So
with their
kind of
locker.
an intro, and this is the route you'll take. These
Yep.
are the classes, and okay.
Yeah. And just kind of like a very quick orientation
Got
to
it.
life in general. And then they were released by noon. So it was, and she goes, I was so bored. And I was like, well, maybe tomorrow will be a little bit more exciting. And then she had volleyball practice after that. So
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
Yay, volleyball.
Yep.
Yay, volleyball.
We went to her tournament. I spent 8 hours at her tournament on Saturday. By the end of it, they kept winning. I mean, as a parent, you're like, good job, right? So the whole parent section, we're sitting in the bleachers. We have been there at this point for 6.5 hours. And they won their next game. And I was like, yay, you know, and so we went from like this super enthusiastic cheering crowd of, you know, awesome parents to, can we get adult beverages delivered to the gym? Would anybody know?
Something.
I mean, we
Help
got so
me.
slap happy by the end of it. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon.
That is a long time
a
to be
long
sitting at
day.
those events, and there's a lot of noise, lots
Yes.
of there is lots of input being
and you're sitting on
bombarded
bleachers.
at you.
Except I had my bleacher seats.
Oh,
if I didn't have my
bleacher
bleacher seats,
bum.
I would have just cried a lot because
It
there's no way.
starts to hurt after a while. There is
does.
just no way around it.
Like, we're not in the age category where it doesn't affect us to sit on bleachers for 8 hours. But yeah, so she did great. They took third overall in the tournament.
That's
and,
amazing.
And yeah, so volleyball is going to be good this year. I'm very excited. She's got a good coach.
Oh, I am happy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try and
Yeah,
catch
I'll
a
give you her
natty game.
schedule.
I would love to.
Yep. Yep.
So
So yeah, so back to school is it's a crazy time for everybody.
Oh, well, let's talk about it.
Well, yeah, and so you had brought up, like, when we were kind of talking about different topics and stuff, and you had mentioned things like finances and just, you know, stuff like that. Well, I wanted to address the fact that we're heading into one of the most expensive times of the year,
For
right?
sure.
So back to school. Yesterday, we did all of our back to school stuff except for school supplies, but we had to make one return. So we're in the store at the mall, which I was very glad we only had to go one store in the mall.
Thank you.
But this mom ahead of us had twins that were probably in 6th grade, I would
Okay.
say. And then I would say her daughter was sophomore, junior, somewhere around there, right? And she had just like this.
Armfuls.
Right? Like, we're at Charlotte Russe, and she's just like brings it up. And the cashier goes, can I get some help? I have a really big order to check out. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like it is. And that's 3 kids all at the same time. Everybody has to have, you know, back to
that's
school
just
clothes.
clothes.
Yes, that's just clothes. And, you know, there's a funny video. I don't know if I can find it or not, but like the way school supplies used to be was like, do you have a backpack? And some notebooks and maybe
Some
like
pencils.
a ruler if you might need it and some pencils, right? And
Red,
now,
blue, and black only were what we
Yes.
were allowed. Yeah.
oh, like pencils or pens?
Pens.
Oh yeah, so we have to have, you know, the pencils and all of that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
everybody has to have the mechanical pencils because they're much more exciting than having to try to find a sharpener. I mean, it's a whole thing, right? It's just a thing.
And the calculators.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. I mean, Addie's taking Algebra 2 and Geometry today, or this
You need
year.
the stuff.
And she needs the T whatever,
That
you know,
thing.
and I asked the
Remember when I had
boys.
2 and I'm like, you need to schedule your classes and you're sharing that thing.
Yeah.
That was just my budget. I didn't have a budget for 2 of them. I
No.
just didn't.
Nope. It's insane. I think that we spent the least amount on school supplies this year than we ever have, because last year I bought in bulk, right? So I ordered on
sure.
Amazon. I got
Yes.
so many folders that no way they could have used them in 1 year. Same thing with notebooks, you know. So
Yes.
we had all of those things.
Oh, yes.
And then really for high school, most of them do their stuff on their computers now.
Right.
And so, yes, they still need the pencils and things like that, but not quite as
Not
much
like
as like
it was.
elementary and middle school, right? So high school is like they shift everything to their Chromebooks.
right.
And I'm like, okay, sweet.
Yes.
Sounds good, you know? But it's
Then-
such an expensive time of year, and it's so stressful for parents to make that transition with their kids from the wild fun of summer.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're like, tomorrow you have to wake up for school, you know? and switch and go. Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah. How was that for your kids when your kids switched? How long did it usually take them to get back into the schedule?
It took a bit to settle into that routine of being up early. The first couple weeks aren't exactly exuberant. I think there's the first couple days, everybody got up and went. It's just that newness, and whether they wanted to go back or not wanted to go back, there's still...
It's something different.
Up,
yeah.
And then it's like,
oh, wait, I have to do that tomorrow. And then I have to do it the next day. And then I have to do it for the whole school year.
Except I'll give a plug for my daughter, Hannah.
Yeah.
Hannah wanted to be not just on time, we need to be early.
Oh.
So she would attempt to hurry us on. The last episode that she had where she rushed us, she tried to make a point by saying, I'm going to back the car out of the garage. Parker, get in the car. We're backing out. We are ready to go. All of a sudden, I hear this horrible sound. Parker didn't get his door shut before she backed out, and she hit the house and bent the door all the way back.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I love you, Hannah. And she's like, I just wanted to be.
Oh, my gosh.
So she's in a tizzy. Parker's got eyes as big as saucers.
Well, yeah, his
in the
door just went backwards.
I am looking at my house that has ruined siding and a car door that's destroyed, and I go and I'm like bending it back.
Right.
And it's like bouncing. I mean, it's not latching. Somebody helped and smacked it hard enough to where it would catch enough to stay shut, because I'm like, I don't have another car.
You're like, you can't just drive around with a hole, like an open.
So everybody promptly slid into the car from the other side, because you couldn't open that door. And nobody said a word on the way to school. Hannah sat silently, eyes ahead, didn't say a word, as did I, and that was the best choice to make in that moment.
Oh, my gosh.
And addressed it later, but yeah. School sometimes can cause a number of situations that you may or may not be ready for.
Yeah, and that brought up a good point what you just said, because I've thought about this so often. We as teachers and as humans and people,
because
we never know what has happened at somebody's house prior to getting to school.
For sure.
I just remember thinking that a couple times where something's off. I wonder what it is. But literally, you have no idea what somebody's gone through. So, and then they carry that in. So I'm thinking of Hannah, like she's like, oh my gosh, like I broke the car, and then she has to go to school.
And she was
has to function.
Mortified.
Yes.
She just felt full of shame. She's embarrassed.
Oh, yeah.
She's horrified. She knows I don't have money for things like that.
And how do you turn that back off again long enough to like hear in your classes and pay attention?
And be present.
And I mean, I know like when I'm dealing with something in my life or whatever that kind of feels like all consuming.
Yes.
Even when you're at work or you're thinking like you're in class or whatever, it's always running in your mind.
Leave. It doesn't leave.
I think that we need to remember that
these
as
kiddos.
anybody that's in schools or anybody that works with them, or even from student to student. Sometimes like I think a lot of times kids that have dealt with something in the morning, whatever it is, they go to school and they're snippy. There's extra, you know what I'm saying? Like they're just trying to get through the day and deal with it and function. And I think that we need to be more graceful and considerate and understanding in all of that, and realizing that, I mean, from friend to friend, right? So like Addie and her friends, well, this person was blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're dealing with something.
What is the why?
Maybe they're going through something that you don't know about.
Why are they that way, maybe? And if you can start training your mind to automatically go to that instead of the other side of it, it becomes far easier to show grace and kindness to people that may need it. And I have an example, and this just happened over the weekend. I was telling you about the ranch that we went to.
Yes.
That was absolutely amazing, and we should film out there sometime.
Oh my gosh,
it is
it looked
spectacular.
incredible.
I could do that anytime I want, so I can set it up.
Okay.
I met this precious girl, precious, and some kids you can just look at them and you can read it on them. And I'm like, there is something. And she was very reserved, very quiet. And I was just trying to draw her out. And not really getting much of a response, but she was super engaged. As soon as Robert and I started talking and we started talking real, she all of a sudden, you could tell she was very present for that conversation.
Oh, she heard something different. Like, wait a minute, this is
Yes.
authentic and real and honest.
Right.
That's awesome.
But what I was to find out later, as she was sitting with us when we were eating dinner, all of a sudden, she just kind of turned and looked at us, and there was just that giant tear that just started trickling. And it's like, oh, no. So I'm like grouping, because it's like she needs adults, and something is happening. And she just says, I just wanted to say thank you. And a lot of what both of you said just really meant a lot to me. And, we just said, well, thanks so much. And, we are here. We will talk to you about anything. And then the floodgates opened. This poor child has lost her mother to a drug overdose.
Oh, no.
She lost her brother to a drug overdose. Her father is deep into drug addiction and doing so poorly that she says, I know that it's going to happen to my father also. She has been officially adopted by her grandmother.
Okay.
And her freshman year at high school last year, at which point she was without her mother. And the kids found out and used that to bully her.
Oh, no.
It was the worst of the worst. She started describing what kids would say. And, yeah, your mom used drugs because of you. She just wanted to die so she wouldn't have to spend time with you. And,
What?
like, horrible, ugly, cruel things to a child who is just falling apart. And she says, all I just want to tell him is like, well, you could go home and hug your mom, and I'd give anything in the world to just hug my mom. I couldn't say goodbye. I couldn't. And she
just breaks my heart.
fell apart. And when you were saying that, she walked into school every day needing kindness. No matter how she was reacting, responding, or anything, she is carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. And then she shared with me in her family history, the drug situation is so bad that her grandmother has officially adopted and raised every single grandchild she has, and most of her children are dead.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh.
It was heartbreaking.
Oh, that's so sad.
And she is just this beautiful young girl that she goes, I am so determined to not be my family. I love them.
Good for her.
But I am so determined
Yes.
for that. So it's like, I told Robert, I'm like, I'm going to be like staying in communication.
Oh, yeah.
If she plays sports or has school stuff, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
Because she needs that in her life. But
She's
you
what, a
saying
sophomore
that,
now?
yeah.
Can you imagine 15? Like, I can't even. That's so much.
Yeah. So last
and good
week,
for her for being the one that wants to break that chain.
yes,
Break that cycle.
I send her a message at least every other day.
Yay.
And I see my job as filling her tank. She needs to hear that somebody's proud of her.
Yes.
She needs to hear that somebody believes in her. Every child walking into school needs to hear people say, I am so proud of you.
Yes.
You are so amazing and the world is better because you're in it. I don't understand why it's so difficult for so many people to do that, or why it's so easy to not do that. It's easy to spot the people that are hurting.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
can just tell.
You can see it. You can feel it. Yeah.
And it's an easy thing to just be kind. And if you can't even approach them and be kind, can you maybe leave them alone? Do you really have to say something?
And that's just it, too. You know, if you, and it's that cliche statement, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. But that's true.
Right.
Why spread the hate? Why spread the negativity? Why, and then people are like, well, it makes me feel better. But does it?
Does it
like,
really?
Does it really? Because I don't think so. I don't even think some of the worst human beings in the world feel better after they have
can I call
attacked
BS on
other
that?
people. Yeah, it is total
calling it.
BS. No, it really is.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a lie.
And like you said, but here's the kicker. All it takes sometimes in a child's world full of the worst chaos you can think of.
Yeah.
It takes one person that
Just
can
one.
completely change their life trajectory forever.
Yes.
One person that believes in them, one person that is kind to them, one person that speaks life into them.
Absolutely.
I have an example of that. My very first year teaching, I was 21.
You
I
were
went.
just a
I was
baby
such a
teacher.
baby. I was literally a
You
year
were
older
still
than Alex is right
squeaking,
now.
just kinda-
Yes,
oh.
I was so young, right?
Oh.
So I get this job out in like near Lansing area.
Yes.
It's not what I want. It's not what I went to school for. The job itself was a complete nightmare. I had 6 different subjects I had to teach, and there was no curriculum for any of them. So with 4 days notice, I had to make my own curriculum for 6 different subjects.
And what grade was this?
This was high school, and it was junior high because it was 7th, 8th, and 9th, but I taught 9th graders, right?
You can't
And-
just like.
No, and so I went to school for special ed, right? I took
Yes.
one class on learning disabilities, and then I was hired to have a special ed classroom full of mentally impaired students. And now it's
Okay.
cognitively impaired, but
Sure.
and I was teaching learning disabilities, 6 different preps to
21
ninth graders.
with no
At 21,
set
I was like
curriculum.
5 years older than some of these kids because they had been left back a couple times,
Oh,
Anyways.
I haven't seen those workbooks on the shelf in Meyer. Like you can't
No,
just.
there's
pick
no,
up
because
like-
here's the subjects. Ready? Personal adjustment, self-determination. I'm like, what in the ever loving is that? Like, what? They're like, well, we just need you to figure that out. Okay, sure. Yep.
It sounds like were those kids an afterthought to them? Like
Well, they were. And here's the
Oh.
thing. So I had one girl in particular that had been through 9th grade. This was her 3rd time through 9th grade.
no.
3rd time. Like,
Oh no.
And
So everybody else that she'd gone to school with is in their senior year.
quite a few of them, yeah.
And oh
And she couldn't move on because nobody ever took the time to teach her the way she needed to be taught, right?
Right.
She
Thank
wasn't
you
going to
for saying
conform
that.
to everybody else. She needed to be taught differently, right? So I clicked with this girl right away. And when I heard her story, I'm like, nah, she is not falling through my crack. Like, this is
Yes.
not a thing. I will
yes.
rescue her,
She's going to be successful. Yeah.
You know, that girl soared.
Oh.
She soared. I ended up going to her high school graduation like a couple of years later, and we are still connected on Facebook. She has kids now. She's, I don't even know, like 30, whatever. I can't do math, but but she has made it in life.
Because
But
somebody
again,
was there.
I wasn't willing to say, you don't matter. I said, you do matter. You learn differently than everybody else.
Yes.
Let's figure this out. And then she was able to go through the rest
she
of
just
high
soared.
school knowing that this was how she learned rather than
Yes.
the cookie cutter, I could do a whole podcast on education. I think we should.
I was just going to say,
Oh.
I can talk that with you because I've experienced both
Mm-hmm.
sides. I have 2 kids that would be quote unquote be considered gifted and talented.
Okay.
The accelerated.
Yep.
I had 2 kids that were average middle of the road, and I had 2 that every single part of education, the way it's done now, was difficult for them.
How interesting that you have all ranges. I mean, when you have
Yes.
6 kids, that can
It-
happen, but
It was an incredible experience to wade through that. It was very easy to get all the help I needed for 4 of them. And next to impossible getting the right help for 2 of them because they're seen as less important.
that ice cream truck just turned on and it better go away. Can you hear that on there? Anyways,
I know
he's
why
just
you
gonna leave it
I
on.
know why you needed to work at that job in Lansing.
I do too. And like I said, the job was awful. They had a turnaround rate of 13 new teachers a year. Had I known this, I never would have taken the job, right? Like I just wouldn't have. They didn't advertise that. The oldest teacher that was there was 40.
Oh, that says a lot.
Oh, that says a lot. So when so before Christmas break, right? They came around, they had sent an email to everybody and they said, if you're planning on leaving next year, you need to let us know before Christmas and we'll give you a bonus. And I'm like, what? And so I go into my principal's office
Hold on.
before Christmas.
All of a sudden, that part clicked in my mind because I'm like, wait, aren't you
Oh, we were
starting
like
school,
3
like-
months into the school year,
and
right?
they're already, if
So they said, if you can tell us before Christmas if you're not coming back, we'll give you a bonus. So I got an $800 bonus for telling them I wasn't coming back next year. But when I walked into the principal's office to give him my letter of resignation, like 3 months into the school year, he didn't know who I was.
Stop.
He thought I was one of the students.
Stop it.
And I was like, okay. I'm like, hi, I'm a teacher here. Yeah. I'm like, you hired me. I sat at your desk and you hired me.
The kids are not the problem. That is from
Oh,
the
I
top
totally agree.
down.
Yeah. Oh,
Top
100%.
down.
Yeah. So like I said, I did what I could but I know, like you said, I know why I was there.
Made a profound impact
I did.
for somebody who needed you desperately.
I did.
I'm so glad you were there for her.
I am too. I really am. You know, because I didn't question when I left. I didn't question why I had been there.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I
did break up a big fight in between some giant ninth graders one time too, like these big
Some of
ninth
those
graders.
ninth graders are huge.
Oh, they're huge. Like my next door neighbor right now is like 6'1",
Yeah.
you know, I mean, but these were big boys and I'm 21. I have no fear. And so I was like,
Do
just
you have
literally,
fear now? I
oh
don't
yeah,
think
I would
you-
never break up a fight now. There's no way. But I like got right in between these two and was like, no. And like the other teachers were like,
What?
I was like, I'm from New York. I'm 21. I'm good.
I'm ready.
You know?
Jumping in.
Yeah. Anyways, I also taught sex
man.
ed to two ninth graders when I was 5 years older than them. That was after I did that. I decided I could teach anything to anyone.
Because all
Literally.
those ninth grade boys are like, oh, our teacher's so hot.
Oh my gosh. Like it was, and I would just be like, handle life. We have to talk about these body parts. And I would say things like, handle life. We have to do this. It was just hilarious. Yeah. I would get home and I would call Aaron because he was living in Grand Rapids and I was in Lansing.
Yes.
So I would call him and be like, yeah, so today happened.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Good times. Good memories. Yep. We're going to take a break just for a second. So our ice cream man left. We didn't even have to ask him to leave. That was really nice. He gave all the children ice cream for money, and then he left.
He gave them ice cream for money? Is that
Ice cream.
how it
Well, I was going
works?
to say he gave the kids ice cream, but like that wasn't
So,
true. They had to buy
in
it.
exchange,
In
there was
exchange
a
for
system
money.
where it required money like everything else.
Paper for ice cream
Oh.
is the way to do it.
Yes.
I was going to say something, and I have no idea what it was.
We were
Dang it.
talking teaching,
We were.
Lansing, school, there for a
I know.
reason. Being kind. Why is
Being
it so
kind.
hard to be nice? You don't know what people are going through.
Oh, that is where I was going to go with it. So I touched on this slightly last week when I was talking to myself. Actually, just talking to the camera. It was very boring. But I mean, as school starts, and it's going to be hard for some kids.
Yeah.
It's going to be so hard for
Really
some kids.
hard.
And I just stress that kids need to understand each other, and they need to know that everybody's going through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's dealing with stuff. Every middle schooler out there feels the exact same way.
They sure
They
do.
are uncomfortable in their own skin. They have no idea what's going on in their brains because their brains are just mush right now with new hormones flooding in.
Oh my goodness,
They
everything's changing
think that
for
they
them.
look awful in no matter what they have on. I feel like most middle schoolers have some form of like a body dysmorphia.
Oh, without
Do you know
a
what
doubt.
I'm saying? And
Without
especially
a
like
doubt.
middle school boys that might have been thin for their whole life and then they've gained their weight that they need to make their bodies go like this.
Yes.
Both of our boys went through that. I mean, they've
Did they
never
really, your
had
boys?
a stitch of fat on them.
Right.
Except for like 12-ish to
When
13.
they just that little transition
And then
type
each
and
one of
then-
them grew 7 inches or 8 inches in a calendar year. And
Right.
had they not had that extra skin, it would have ripped maybe. I don't even know how that works, but like I just picture it like stretching and there's not
when
enough.
your kid's
And you're like,
into the
"Ow."
ER and it's like, oh, we had another rapid
We had some
growth rate, so-
growing rippage. I don't know. But I kept telling the boys, because again, they never, they never had a stitch of fat on them whatsoever.
Right.
And then they had like the little pudge.
It's preparing.
They had the round faces. It was so
Oh.
cute, you know? And then and now they're like both of them chiseled jaw,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like so super thin, like the V
Yes.
cut and all that. And I knew it. And so like as parents, we know, we see it,
For
we know
sure.
what's happening, we know what's going on. But to a kid,
Yeah.
it's devastating. It's
Yeah.
just devastating.
And we're in an edit and filter world.
Oh, so much.
And makes that, because we experience, I did when I was that age, you did at that age, your kids at that age.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't I didn't get to alter my photos. However they came off the film roll was what you got.
Right.
You might get one good one out of 784 pictures you took.
Exactly.
But nowadays, nobody will throw up their picture unless it's so heavily edited, and
Right.
that makes it even more difficult
To know
be
what normal looks
comfortable.
like.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk a lot like on our show about girls and women and things like that. But I really think that we need to address middle school
affects boys.
You know, I mean, not just middle school boys, but boys in general. You know,
Yes.
they deal with all of that too. And I think as parents, sometimes we forget that because girls are more vocal about it.
Right.
Girls are, oh, I'm so ugly, and
So-
you know
and
the things.
it's been in the news, in the articles, in the
Right.
magazines.
But the
Yeah.
boys, they don't say
They don't.
anything. They suffer silently,
Yep,
you know,
I
and
agree.
they I mean, and then it is, in my opinion, it is more socially acceptable for boys to tease each other than it is for girls, right? So
Without a
like guys
doubt.
will razz each other all the time, like, I mean, and adults too, you know, but
Yes.
like for some reason it is socially acceptable to make fun of how men look
Yeah.
or boys look or whatever, and then but if you say that to a woman, oh my word, like that's a hell-worthy trespass. So
Those-
why is that?
Right. And those boys have to go home
Yeah.
with that thought planted in their head.
Right.
And
Right.
I think of it like if I was going to this building every day and I'm already struggling with life and all the things happening and hormones and everything else, and I'm hearing people joking about my looks or my appearance or my
Right.
weight or my this or my that, that will absolutely have an effect on me. Whether I let you see that or not, it's going to have an effect on them.
No,
when
and
they go
but
home.
that's it. They can't let you see it.
Right.
Because they are trying to be men. They are trying to be stoic, and they're trying to be composed at all times, and they're trying to be tough, and like they have so much to deal with.
They do.
And then it's not acceptable for them to talk about any of that to their parents, to their friends, whatever. So what do? They just suck it up. They hold it all in. They put on the strong face, you know.
Right.
And it just kills me because I had the privilege that my boys actually talked to me. Like they shared things
Right.
with me and things like that.
Oh.
Very rare. That's not the norm.
It isn't.
You know what I'm saying? So I do have a little bit of insight. Not that they shared everything with me, but like a little bit of insight into what that felt like, you know,
Yes.
at that time. And then
Right.
they've looked back on things and been like, oh yeah, that was so hard. That was, you know,
Yeah.
this or that or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I wanted to take a moment just to talk about boys and what they deal with and just make sure that we address that, you know, that this is
important.
not all about women and girls
It's
and,
important.
you know, because then they have, okay, we're just dealing with some yelling for a minute. But anyways, you know, but then they have, and this is another thing, they have like this wandering eye syndrome because their hormones are absolutely exploding at this
Oh,
moment.
for sure.
And so now they're like gawking at the girls, but then they catch themselves gawking at the girls and they're like, oh wait, don't stare, you know?
I know.
But they can't help it because men are so visual. Men are
They are.
unbelievably visual. Women are like, you know, we're more into the feels and the, you know, all of like the physical and all that.
For
But
sure.
men,
All it takes
100%.
is just
Like,
I know.
like it's very funny to watch actually. But you know, but you have to, I think people need to be more understanding about that because they're
I
just
agree.
trying, they're trying so hard. You know,
They're
they are
trying
trying
to
to
figure it out.
focus. They are trying to figure it out. They think that they have to fix everything and take care of everything. And this happens at such a young age. I mean, 10, 11, 12, and they're already feeling this way. And by the time they get to high school, the weight of the world is on their shoulders.
Yeah.
They have to be performing all the time, you know, and
So they've
just,
perfected faking.
yeah, I do feel like that, you know, and
It's sad. So sad.
I feel like one thing that is positive that came out of the COVID experience
Yes.
is the allowance of mental health days.
Oh.
The conversation of this student is not okay. And now it is okay, at least at our kids' school. I don't know if this is for everybody,
I hope
but
it's for everyone.
But calling our kids in for a mental health day is an excused absence.
As it should be. And kudos to the parents who recognize it.
Yep.
So can I just go back to the boy thing? Just some thoughts I had on that while you're speaking. I think it is really important to talk more about this. Whether you're a man or a woman, I think it's important to talk about it because those young boys trying to figure out life that now aren't talking about it are growing up into men that don't talk about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So if we can help our kids, boys and girls, become humans who are able to talk about where they're at emotionally, physically, all of those kinds of things, and that's a norm, they will become much healthier adults.
I agree.
And likely much more successful at relationships because communication isn't a foreign thing.
Right.
Normal, open, real communication should be the norm because it has a domino effect, I believe, as you grow and become adults.
In every area of your life. You have to communicate in every area of your life. So if you learn how to do it young, it will benefit you everywhere.
Yeah,
with
until
everything
the day you
you're
die,
doing.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I agree and believe in that so completely.
And I think that there needs to be more education, and I say that word, but it's just educating people, teachers, administrators, counselors, anybody that works with school age teenagers or tweens or even younger than that. They need to know these things. They need to understand that there's always a reason for the behavior.
There is.
There is. And most of the time, it's not what you think it is.
For sure.
And
I agree completely.
100% of the time, and I'm going to say 100% of the time, it is not intentionally to be as naughty as they can.
Oh,
But you know what I'm
so
saying?
Agree.
Like some teachers, and
Yes.
I have heard it myself, and they're like, well, that's just a bad kid. There's no such thing as a bad kid. I'm sorry, there's not. You can be born with certain dispositions, but if you're willing to get to the bottom of it,
yeah.
and that was something I didn't get. I didn't fully understand until the past couple of years. I feel like I've learned so much more about that.
Yep.
And just again, and I'll just use, one of our kids, for example, but there were like outbursts and there was anger and it was very uncharacteristic to this child.
Not the norm.
Not the norm. And so then it's like, okay. And again, we had such a great principal that we work with. And it was one of those things like he was going, there's motivation behind this. There's something fueling this. What is it?
Good
and
job,
instead
Dad.
of just giving them a detention or suspending or whatever.
Just heaping more on them.
Right. And, but again, and then when you get down to it, it was like, oh, well, I was embarrassed about this thing.
Oh.
Or it was embarrassment that they didn't know how to ask for help or, understand, or they felt misunderstood. And so then
So
but
they're
there's
carrying that
always-
burden.
Yeah, and as soon as we figured it out, it was almost like a visual thing where you could see them sitting up more straight. Their face became calm, and it was like, oh, all right.
Oh.
And then we can move forward. But again, if there was no investigation, if it was taken at the first, you just hear it, you see it, and you're like, you're in trouble, right? If you just do that, you never get to the heart of the matter, which means nothing's resolved. Because then you're compiling a consequence on top of a behavior.
You are fueling the behavior.
Yes.
Because they already are struggling dealing with the core issue.
Yes.
And all the adults around them are doing is throwing punishments.
Yep.
Because they're acting out because they don't know how to handle what's at the core. And I'm going back to any teacher that labels a child a bad kid, get out of teaching.
Get out of teaching. I totally
Get
agree.
out now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Because you need to be able to see them. And
I'm ready.
every sibling is different. So if you had one of the kids and you
sure.
didn't like them in your class and then you've got their sibling coming up, you have got to have a clean slate with that kid.
Without a
There is
doubt.
no way. And we have dealt with that. And I have had
Without
to
a
mama
doubt.
bear it, but
Yep.
I'm like, this is, and I love my kids because they're like, excuse me, I am not my sibling. Do not treat me like that. I mean, and those words have actually been said.
I love it.
And I love that
I
because
love the confidence your children have, and they take a stand on what is right.
they do.
And even at their young age, like your daughter, I mean, she's a little rock star
Yeah.
and she's amazing. She's got a confidence about her and a surety about herself.
Yep.
That is absolutely beautiful and a breath of fresh air.
And my boys do too.
Yeah.
They do
I
not
love your
settle
kids.
for
I
injustice.
think they're fun.
They speak up when it needs to be,
Yes.
whether it's at work or it was at school or whatever, but
Good for them.
they are not afraid to say this is not okay.
It's
and
not, yes.
and I think that's great because
I
they need that.
Want more of that.
Yeah. I totally
More of
agree.
that
I totally agree. Yeah.
Everyone.
So on that same subject of there's motivation behind behaviors.
Yes.
I just read something and I didn't get to read the whole thing, but I just saw like the title and a little bit about it. And it said, instead of going straight to timeouts, we need to do a time in.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
was loving
Bring them in
that.
closer.
Loving that. And I actually, my sister-in-law had made a post sometime in the past 2 weeks or whatever that her 3-year-old was having a complete meltdown, just like screaming. And I mean, the whole 3-year-oldness, right?
Oh, 3-year-olds are
3-year-old, right?
glorious in their meltdowns.
So instead, and I love this because instead of like her first instinct was like to get frustrated and
For sure.
that parent like stop it.
I get it.
And then all of a sudden something clicked and she's like, wait a minute. He needs something that he's
Yes.
not getting. Let me figure out what it is,
Yeah.
And she said that she, because he's the middle child, and so she actually exclusively spent time with him. She read him books. He ended up falling asleep on her, like on her chest, on her lap, and he doesn't take naps anymore, So she posted, I would have missed this moment right now
If I'd sent him away.
had I put him in the timeout or done whatever, and what he needed was some alone time,
Yeah.
some extra love, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I love the concept of not timeout,
Can
but
we
time
make
in.
that go viral?
I want to.
I am all about it. When you feel like I just want to push that child away, close the door, not
Yep.
look at them for a while, do the opposite.
Reach the other way and pull them in.
Do the opposite.
Whether they are
and love
little
'em
or they're teens.
harder. Don't
Except
teach.
It's all good. I know right what I was going to say. I was going to say, but ask teens before you hug them because it goes better that way. But yes, can we please? I mean, that
I am all about it.
that is just
No
a
more
concept
timeouts.
that I wish that I would have known about when I had young kids.
Because what will that teach them? Mom or dad or whoever that person is in their life, that's who I can go to when I'm really having a bad day.
Yes.
They
Yes.
are going to love me no matter how I'm
Yep.
behaving, and they're going to show me love and grace.
Yep.
Because Lord knows I've had some days where I really needed some love and grace shown towards my bad attitude.
Yeah, me too.
And I am a huge fan of this, and kudos to that mom that knew that she had a little one that
I was very
Needed.
impressed. Yeah.
brilliant parenting.
It is brilliant parenting. And it's hard. Let me tell you, putting a kid in timeout is so much easier. Like it is less on you to
Yeah.
put your kid out.
Yep.
But the benefit is so much more.
Without
The
a
long-term benefit of your additional sacrifice as a parent
Yes.
to have to deal with that in the moment. You know what I mean? But is it our goal to raise our children for this moment, or is
Right.
it a long-term? I mean, really, you're raising adults since the moment they were
You're
born.
raising them to be an adult.
Yeah.
Capable of surviving in a world that's getting increasingly difficult to survive in.
It is.
So
No, this world is not an easy world to navigate right now.
I'm glad I'm not starting to have kids now.
Oh my gosh. Even like I'm grateful that my kids are their ages now. I mean,
Yeah.
because it just is.
I know.
It is getting more and more.
I watch my grandkids and I'm like, oh, my heart. Oh, my heart. So
Yep. I totally agree. Well, good. I think that's a great place to end.
I think it is.
I just was feeling
I've
good.
enjoyed the talk about the school and the kids and
Let's talk
that
more about
aspect of it. I
schooling.
think it was. There's so many places
I'm thinking
to go
next
with it.
week. Let's talk more about schooling because I really think that's. And I mean, it's
So-
very relevant right now with schools starting and everything. But
sure.
I think that would be a
So,
good thing.
I have a question for you about
ready.
that. I would love to talk about schooling from the perspective of being your child's advocate. I think a lot of parents can
yes.
be hesitant to address a teacher when they feel that there's an issue with the teacher. And they'll tend not to, okay, well, we'll just get through it or not.
Right.
How to be your kid's advocate.
I
when
love
the
that.
teacher really is not right for your child, how do we address that? Because you know what? It's not always your kid.
No, it's not.
And I've had that experience.
So have
and when
I.
I walked in with this teacher and I was promptly told to sit down and shut up, I'm like, I understand where the problem is now.
Yes.
And that's when I was told where your child is stupid and a waste of my time. And that's all it was, wasn't gifted. And she goes, I'm tenured and I want gifted students, not people like your kid.
We're going to talk about tenure
Yeah.
because I have
Yeah.
issues with it.
Yeah.
You really do.
I was just, my soul hurt in that moment for my child that had to sit through those classes and is inexcusable.
No, I
But
love that. We will
being
definitely
your kid's advocate. So
we will definitely talk about that because I think that's
Yes.
really important.
I love it.
All right. Well, we're being taken over by
It's getting loud.
many,
The
many, many
the kids
people.
are done with
So-
school and they're ready to play.
They are
so.
too. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are
Yes.
unbelievably excited that Heidi is back with us. Oh my gosh, I have missed her.
Thank you.
More than words can
Couple
say.
things happen.
So-
I'm learning how to re-talk again without the stuff.
You are amazing. You're amazing in
So-
every way. Yes.
I love you
yes.
and I've missed you.
Oh, I've missed you so much. Yeah. So join us next week and please subscribe if you have
Yes,
not subscribed yet.
please.
Share, like, comment. Head over to TikTok and join us on there too. We're almost to 10,000 by the way.
Things are going
We
crazy.
have one of our videos at 1.7 million. The other one's
Yes.
at like 1.4 and the other one's at 1.1. So feeling
I am
pretty good about
humbled
those.
and honored that you would choose to watch
Yeah.
this podcast born of a passion and a love for doing this. So
Awesome.
this is an amazing thing.
I love it.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.